Alright, so here is the first math lesson for the whole group. And I'm going to post this one first because I want everybody to see this. So this is for all math groups. This is a video on how you're going to portion out your circle graph, pie graph, into sections that equal and show, accurately represent the percentages. So what I've been telling you guys is, okay, find the center, draw your line, and now you know that these are quarters, so this is a quarter, this is 25%, 25, 25, 25, because it's just like a dollar. If this is a whole dollar, each of these would be 4 quarters. And then I've kind of just been having you guys kind of guesstimate. So if this is a half of 25%, this would be 12.5%, this would be 25%, and then we know that half of 12%, 12.5%, would be 6.25%. So if this one would be 6.25% here, and this one would be 6.25%. Equally, this section over here, if I remove that line and add 2 quarters, this section would now, this whole thing would now be equal to 50%. So that's what I've been having you do. But, so I want you to watch for just this part. But what I want you guys to pay attention to is now, this was all just like kind of a rough estimate. But what I want to go over is how do you separate your pie graph so that you have an accurate representation of these percentages for each of these percentages shown. And it's actually a very simple equation. You are going to find out your decimal percent or your decimal number. So in this case, if I had, for this one, 16 out of 73. If I had 16 out of 73 candies, that would be 22%, or 0.22 as a decimal. And then I'm going to take my decimal number, 0.22, and I'm going to multiply it on my calculator by 360. Because if you didn't know this, you want to write this down. All circles have 360 degrees. All circles have 360 degrees, and all triangles have 180 degrees. We've talked a little bit about that. So, but most importantly, we're talking about circle graphs, not triangle graphs, and we're not cutting this up. You still need to find the center of your circle. So you would actually take your ruler, if you wanted to be very precise, you would take your ruler, and I'm going to measure and put this on my edge, and I'm going to put that there, and it is 2 5/8. So if it's 2 5/8, I'm going to go split 5/8, so 1, and then if I'm doing 5/8, it's just a fraction over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sixteenths. So believe it or not, I actually placed that in the right spot. I'm not gonna lie, that might be the only talent that I truly have, which gets me no pay raise. So definitely don't judge your circle thing as a way to retire later on. It's not going to help you. But do know this. You have these little papers like this, and it has a protractor on it, just like this. You need to cut out your protractor just like this on the solid line. Now, I did not cut out my center area. It's still there. But you need to make sure that you cut this line straight. I didn't have enough protractors to send home to everybody, so this protractor actually works just fine. So after I have my protractor, I'm going to place my protractor in the center of my circle. And I'm going to make this line that's right here, I'm going to put a star by it. This star right here shows this line. It needs to be on the center point, the center for the circle. So, when you put the center of a circle there, or you put the point on the center of the circle, now you could be able to say, okay, so from this section right here, let's say I would need a certain degree. If I would start from 0 and count over. And technically, you want kind of your straight edge, so I would put a line here. So right now, this is a 180 degree angle. That is just a straight line. A straight line is a 180 degree angle. Now, from my center point, so if I put this here, and I do my division or multiplication, I want to figure out what percentage of this circle, how many degrees does my angle need to be for 22% candies being red. So I'm going to take 22 as the decimal and I'm going to multiply it by 360. I end up getting 79.2 degrees. So I'm going to take my circle, my protractor, leave the center right on the center point, and I'm going to look for 79. Well, here's 80, and if I'm going to go out, sometimes they have a great way to do this is a straight edge, and I'm just going to put my line right here. And then when I move my protractor, I am going to put my line right here. Now, really quick, this is not 79% of my circle. This is still 22% of my circle. So that's 22%. So now I have another straight edge, and I need to figure out what 18% is. So again, I'm going to take my calculator, 0.18, which is the decimal form of 18%, prior to multiplying it by 100. And then I'm going to multiply that by 360. So I have 64.8. So I'm going to round up to 65. So I'm going to take my center part. I'm going to put, watch this part, I'm going to put the 0 line right on that line. And I need to get to 60, which is right here. There's a 60, and now 64.8, and I said I'm going to make that 65. So I'm going to put my line there. I'm going to connect with the center point in that edge. So now I have 22%, I have 18% now. So this is the percent that's red, this is the percent that's orange, and now I need 30%. So again, I have my straight edge that I'm going from. I am going to take my 0.3, and if I wanted to do say 3/10 or 30 hundredths, I'm going to multiply it by 360 degrees, the degrees in the circle, and it says 108. So I'm going to exactly, so I'm going to take my straight edge again. Here's my center point for my circle. So notice how I kind of feel like, oh, wait a second, it says 0, so I need to either switch this and flip this over. So the 0 is right on that line. I want everything to line up just perfect. This has to be in the center. When I was in school, I'm not going to lie, even through high school, sometimes I didn't remember that at first, and so I'd be like, oh, it doesn't, I put it on a line. Well, it does matter where, in the center. So now this next one is 108. So I'm going to hold my center down on my protractor down in the center, and I'm going to make sure my 0 is lined up with that, and I'm going to find 108. So there's 110, but now if I go back 2 notches, then I get 108. So I'm just going to kind of make that line. And now I'm going to take my ruler, because my straight line skills, even though they are exceptional, I am modeling what it would be like to actually be accurate. So as you can tell, this is a much larger section than these two. So this one is going to be 30%. And I could put yellow in here. And then I could put orange. And I could put red. And then now I'm going to look at, so I've done this one. So right here I'm just going to put, this was 70, oops, brain fart. What is the deal with my head thinking one thing and my hand doing another thing? 79%. This one was 65, sorry, degrees. I want to remember degrees. and this one was 108 degrees. And it's almost the same as the temperature thing, but they're actually talking about degrees of an angle. So the brown is 10%. Now I don't have to know this, but I know that if I'm going to move the decimal to, so right here, it's going to have to go over one place on this one. So it'll end up being 36. So with my 36 degrees, where did I do with my protractor? I blew it over here. Oops. So now I'm going to take my center, line up my center, make sure it's on my 0, and oops, I got to flip it back over. So I have it on my line, I have my 0 here, and I'm going to have my number go this way. So I need to get to 36. So 10, 20, 30, 40, got to go back. 35 is in the middle, 36 is right there. 36 degrees, not percent, 36 degrees for a total of 10%. So now we have 10%. And this is the color brown. These candy numbers were for M&Ms, but it doesn't really matter. So, and now we have 64, which means if I really measure this, if 10% is 36, 16 and 14 is 20. That would be double that. That would be a total of 72. If I take my angle and I measure this, technically my angle should be close to 72 degrees to show that I am on the money. Pretty gosh darn close there. So I have my, so here's 70, 71, 72. So I would have all that lined up. And so, but I have 16 and 4. So again, my decimal would be 0.16 times 360. That's going to get me to 57.6. And I'm going to round that up, whoopsie, for degrees because this doesn't decimals. So I know someone was talking about accuracy. We're being as close as we can with the materials that we have. So 57.6. So we're going to call it 58. So 55 is right here. 56, 57, 58. So 58 would be right there. The good news about this is we kind of don't have to do much with this last one unless we want to double check our work, because this last one, if this one was 16% green, this last little sliver right here, and sometimes you'll see this on pie graphs, they'll have a little arrow showing that they're talking about this one, and they kind of do an over, and they say, they'll put the percentage, like 4% in here, and then they'll put the word blue on the outside. So technically, you want to get them to equal to 100%, and you also, if you wanted to add your angles up, you would want to make sure that your angles would get you to as close as 100 as possible, or sorry, 360. So if I add these up, 14 degrees, sorry, not percent. If I add these up, I'm going to show you. So if I add this up, I have 79 plus 65 plus 108 plus 36 plus 58 plus 14. We will get, this time we were lucky, our total is 360. I did one earlier and I was 1 degree off. Shade those in. I'm going to go ahead and work on my